Gentlemen, we got ourselves a fun little one that we're going to do here today. We're going to call this the Battle of the Two 4-Pills. We're going to put it up against, that's a Fat Boy 4-Pill with Toshibas in it, up against a Fat Boy 4-Pill with Toshibas in it. Well, what's the difference other than the obvious thing that this is in a bigger cabinet with more heatsink? This one here is more of a comp style build, and this one here is the plain Jane everyday off the street build. This one here was retuned by Danny123 in 2022, this year. This one here has still got all the factory little bugs and bits in it. So what we're going to do is we're going to put these two amps up against each other head to head. We're going to run them with the same radio, with the same amount of drive, on the same bench, and we're going to see what the results are, flat and even across the board. The two build styles internally could not be more different if they tried to be. Let's get down here and let's go look at it. Little Toshiba action. Little Toshiba action. Roughly the same transformers, pretty close to the same thing. One's got a big old gnarly electrolytic capacitor in it. This has got an independent input tune, and it's got a big trombone on the output tune. This is the way I like to build. This has got a piece of RG400 in it, or RG172 or whatever it is. This over here. Let's go over here. It's got a metal clad or metal bonded poly blah 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 capacitor on it for the output tune, which, don't get me wrong, once we get done doing the head-to-head, we're going to change a couple things on both these boxes to see if it makes a big improvement or a little bit of improvement. It's going to make a little bit of improvement, like power wire upgrades and that kind of stuff. This thing is fed with, oh, what is this? That's 8 gauge. At least they claim it's 8 gauge. 2 pieces of 8 gauge. I ground in a hot 1 piece of 8 gauge. But we're going to probably change these caps out once we get done, but we're going to run everything just as it sits. We're not going to modify anything. We're going to do an A versus B, and then we're going to do an A versus B after we go through and change a couple things. Just a few things, a few small things for safety's sake. Like, we're going to upgrade our power wires. We're going to go and we're going to upgrade the power wires here. We're going to change out these caps so that they're metal clad. That way I don't ever have to worry about ever seeing this amp ever again. You know, because some caps got hot and burned down one time in Tijuana, you know what I mean? Yeah, and we're just going to see what we got. So, let's get the bench set up. We're going to have both of these hooked up at the same time. And the only thing I'm going to do is I'm going to move jumper A, jumper from amp A to amp B. Just move the coax over and we're going to see what we get, okay? I think this is going to be interesting. You and I both know, everybody involved knows that this amp's probably going to outperform that amp. It's just simple. It's got a finer adjustment point here on the input, more precise output tune. Just the way the whole circuit's set up in here, there's more power wire going into everything. Like this one here is fed with dual 8. That right there, come on. But I'm very interested to see, head to head, what the deal is. Stock build or a little bit more comp build. Just saying. Just so everybody knows I'm not blowing smoke up anybody's ass. It's literally been signed and dated right here on the board. Okay, let's see what happens with this. Okay, let's go over the basic loadout of what we got going on. We're idling at 15.2 on the meter on the power supply, 15 volts on the bench, floating back to 14, and 15.4 on the derail striker. So we're going to use the derail striker today as our drive unit. First, let's show you input power. This here is 1,000 watt in peak, 1,000 in average, and a 5 watt slug and reverse back from the Bird 10,000 watt dummy load. So This is just the radio. Hello, 1, 2. So we're seeing about 120 peak watts out of this radio. Hello, and about 50 bird. All right, that's our drive power. The battle of the 2 4-pills. Let's see, down. There we go. Okay. Up. It's got a sideband delay, but this box is not biased for sideband. It's straight up just an AM amp. All right, let's go over here and see what the 120 watts produces out of the amp. Hello. We'll call that a nice solid 390 bird and about 900 watts peak. And we're pulling 62 amps worth of current, roughly. Remember, RMS meter and plus or minus 10%. Okay, so we have that as a result. Now let's come up here and look at the result of this. That's dead key. We're looking at the reflect, which is this portion of the meter right here. Now let's go up here and we'll look at the reflect meter, which isn't too bad. It's a little washed out, but it's showing 0.4 of a watt. It's not too bad. Oh, yeah, here. And when we're modulated, it drops to 0, but then this isn't going to work. Come here. Then up here, dead key, it's rising. So that is our test result. Let's go ahead and switch over to the Fat Boy built 1, 2, 3 tuned. And I don't know exactly what that means, but I mean, it's got his tuning tubes in it, the way he sets things up, for the most part. Not 100%, don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to say that this is 100% representative of his work. In no way am I saying, I'm just saying it's been retuned. That's all we know. That's all we know. Okay, let's come back over. Let's show this to you one more time. Hello, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1. Pass-through tune is perfect, and we're putting about 120 watts in it once again. So, let's flip the switch. Hello. Oh yeah, way outperforms. Let's come up here. Let's take a look at this. First, we're going to look at our input on the striker. Still relatively high on the dead key. Hello. Now on the bird, it's hanging out a little bit lower. It's 0.2 of 1 watt in reflect, climbing to half a watt. And then the reflect on the striker, it's just a hair over 1.5. Falling down to 2 bars. So now let's go over here and look at our output power. About 10 more bird and about 100 more peak. Pulling about 3 more amps worth of shmoo. The battle of the amplifiers, head to head. Okay, so we know here that we got a 900 watt box, and here we got just about 1,000 peak power, about 400 bird here, 375 to 380 bird here at about 800 watts. 60 amps, and 62 amps, 63 amps, and over here is 66 to 65. Same amount of drive. Just goes to show you that if you set the circuit up for a little bit more efficiency in certain departments, you start picking up power out of the box. Now, without changing any of the tunes on either one of these amps, we're going to change just the power wires. And we're going to see what we got for a result. Okay, now, the battle of the four pills continues. All we have done is we've removed these little chokes, which everybody has such a hard time understanding that this does make a difference. It all adds up. It all adds up. If I can change out these chokes in a 4-pill configuration and pick up 25 or 30 watts, it's still 25 or 30 watts worth of more efficiency that we're getting out of the circuit. So I'm trying to make this point. Trying to slide everybody into the idea of what I'm doing over here. So all I've done is we've modified our power delivery system. Nothing else in here has been changed. We changed these wires out for these. Pulled these out, changed it into this. Did the same thing on the 123 tune Fat Boy over here, as we got rid of these two little blue chokes and we replaced them with the red wires. That's it. That's all we did. So now this box, we were getting just a hair under 900 watts with 125 watts worth of drive. So shut this off, we'll shut this off. Let's go over here and show you. Hello, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Same amount of power. Now if this goes a hair over 900 watts, just food for thought. Hello. Hello. Picked up a little bit, like 10, 15 watts on this box. Hello. Just trying to go further. Once more. Hello, 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 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1. Same voltage. Hello, hello, hello. Same input reflag. Hello. Drops down to 0. Same and same. So we've seen a little bit of an improvement here. Maybe 25, maybe 30 watts, but it all helps. What we're doing is we're getting rid of the current restriction or the voltage restriction that's taken place here. I've even shown this on a FLIR where this gets hot. It just gets hot. You can literally measure it with a digital imager and go, oh look, this wire is getting hot. Is it getting silly hot, like it's going to cause a problem? No. But the wire is heating up, which means there's a little bit of resistance there, which means there's a little bit of a voltage drop going to the transistors. So by changing these wires out, we have eliminated that little bit of a voltage dip so the transistors can create a little bit more power with the same amount of voltage. We're increasing the efficiency. So, without changing anything, this thing made about 999 watts. It was like right at 1,000. So, if it picks up, oh, I don't know, 75 watts, I'll be surprised. The reason I say that is because this box has, well, got a lot more tunability to it, and it's got a lot more flexibility, and there's more power wire feeding it. We're losing more current and more voltage on this other box because of the size of the power wire, the type of the connections. If this was like 4 gauge, we'd probably see even more power out. We'd be seeing almost 1,000-ish. This thing's got 2 pieces of high strand count 8 going to a big Anderson clip, going to big power wire. So this box, obviously that, and it's a completely different build style, is a little bit more efficient than this one. So once again, without breaking the camera away, hello, 111, same amount of power. Hello. So we hit the stop peg. We're barely making 1,000 before, now hello. It does make a difference. It does. Let's go over here and hit the multiplier. Go up to 2x now. now because this thing at full meter movement over here to the full over here to the right is 2,000 watts. So the big hash mark here between the 40 and the 60, that's 1,000 watts. The 60 is 1,200. The next big hash mark, 14. Then we get to 80, that's 1,600 watts. Next big hash mark after that, 18. And then fully deflected over here on the far right is 2,000. I bet you we see about 1150 out of this. Hello. Hello. So we picked up quite a bit on the comp box just by changing the power wire. And no, we haven't messed with the tune. Everything is exactly the way it was when we first started showing you the amp. Let's come up here. 15.4. Hello, 1, 2. Hello, 1, 2. SWR bridge is reading exactly the same. What's our amp draw? Hello, 4 amps less. 3 amps less. Same voltage. This amp we need to continue on with. This one, I might want to play with the tuning just a little bit, not a lot, but the capacitors over here, this will last. These clad caps here will last. Or I can just put 1,000 puff metal clads in there and never have to worry about it whatsoever. It's the reason I left these leads really wide. So I can spread this out, get in here, solder the caps in down nice and low, because remember the fans on the inside of the cabinet here. We'll stand these up and then we'll flatten the wire down so it's right along the top of the transformer. And we might see a little bit more out of it by having those caps in there, but I doubt it. But we're going to test it either way. But right now, for now, just changing out the power wire made a significant difference here and a small difference here, but it still made a difference on both boxes. All right, so we picked up, we'll be generous and we'll say that it picked up 125 watts by changing out the power wires on this box. It was barely making 1,000, now it's hitting the stop peg, banging on the stop peg and coming back. So if we put more drive in it, we could probably get a whole lot more out of this. This one here, it made a small adjustment. We'll say 25, maybe 30 watts of an increase in power. But that is what it is. It's still 25 more watts than what this box was making before we started. Okay, so this one capacitor is a 988.9. $993.4, so they're pretty close to each other, these two caps. What we replaced those two caps with were the metal clad 1%ers. Right there. So now we're starting to resemble this circuitry over here. See this? Okay. Now we're making like 9 and some change, if memory serves me. We're on the same voltage all the way around. Everything's the same. Show you drive to prove that I haven't turned anything up. Hello. Same drive, same volts. Hello. Now that made a significant increase. That picked up another 50 watts right there. 60 watts. Hello. Hello. Okay. Hello. 1, 2. Hello. 1, 2. Get a little bit more efficient. The more we go. So now what we want to do is this capacitor here, which is very prone for failure, but it hasn't in this box. I've got boxes that have got these parts in them that have been out there running around for almost a decade. Understand what I'm telling you. Don't put words in my mouth. Don't be calling up somebody and saying like, "Oh, la, 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 la." Don't. You're going to look stupid. Don't be stupid. I have just discovered that replacing this capacitor makes the box almost bulletproof. If we replace it with a metal cap like this, get rid of this, go to this, things run better for longer. That's all I'm saying. Remember, certain things in this world are built to a price point, right? The cost of this box over, let's say, something that I build, the price is dramatically different. If I was to build this amp out and build it in this enclosure, which I do, I like these enclosures. I like how they cool. I like the fact that how they push the air through it. And instead of putting all the heat down a couple fins, a couple of the fins, if you think about it, the surface area underneath the pill strip here is maybe 2, maybe 3 fins wide. We get a lot more what I call cross saturation in the heatsink. I like this style heatsink. I do. I like this box. I like this style. And we're talking a lot more money versus this. And I'm not saying that this is a bad product. These are an awesome amp. Okay, and this box here is an awesome box. It was when it's built, and it's still awesome today. So don't put words in my mouth. Don't be going and getting silly. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to change this cap out to something that's metal, and we're going to see what changes that has on this amp's operation. So this is supposedly 140 puff plus or minus 5%. So 1000 volt SM cap. So it's 126 puff. So what we replaced that with was a true 1% metal clad cap. That's 150. So now we're going to see a performance difference. I bet you that we get really close to our 1000 watt mark. Real close to it. So let's go over here. And let's zoom in on our peak meter. Hello. Real close to it. Now let's look at our bird meter. We haven't looked at that for a minute. Hello. A little bit more bird. Maybe 10 more bird. Hello. Let's go up here. Hello. Hello. Isn't that weird how that works with a Striker radio? So when people call me and they've got a bitch, man, I hooked this thing up with my Striker and it's showing a little bit of high SWR input. Don't worry about it. Not that big of a deal. I'm like, but, stop. That meter is so picky. So that's starting with a 5 watt carrier going forward into the amp. And that's at 100 watt dead key. So let's turn the amp off. I'll bring our dead key down here about a watt. Now that I'm done testing everything, I can start playing with it. So 1 watt going in. Look at the bridge now. Explain to me how it's got an SWR of 3 with 0.2 of a watt worth of reflect coming back. Hello, we're all on sideband. Hello. Okay. Just playing around. Do a 3 watt carrier into it. Now let's look at the bridge again. Let's lock this down. Let's play with this for a minute. It's 3 watts. It's down to a 2. Turn our dead key up to 5. Now the bridge is down below 1, down below 2. It's a 1.6 maybe. Let's turn our dead key up to about 7 watts. Getting lower. So if we crank it to where it's doing stupid watts, it's a 1.4. Let's go down here. Let's quit beating up our... see, we're off the 5 watt scale completely. Let's turn this around and quit beating that meter up for no reason. That's too high in my opinion. If your amp does 1,000 watts, we want to keep this down around 200, 225 at the most. So we'll run this on down. That's where we were testing from. Okay. Same and same. So what did we learn from this? What did we learn from the head-to-head 4-pill? I think we learned a little bit. I'm going to play with the input tune on this one a little bit now. See if we can scooch that down a little bit. And then we're going to come back and play with this one. Add one little cap in just the right place. 1.3 to nothing, according to the striker, and 3/10 of 1 watt worth of reflect, going up to 3/10, 4/10 of 1 watt worth of reflect. 1,000 watts. 435, 450 bird. Okay. I'm going to call this one a win. We're going to move on away from this. Let's go play with this. That and this poor little thing needs to cool down because it doesn't have any air on it. And I'm not going to lie, we've been beating the shit out of it. So, let's go over here. Let's try and play with this one a little bit. Okay, well, that was monumentally depressing, but here we are. 1, 2. We didn't lose any output power. Tweaked everything there really is to tweak here without changing some major componentry on the inside, but this is acceptable, and I'll live with it. One. So we're gonna live with it. We're gonna live with it. It's under a water reflect, falling down to nothing on the face of the striker, but we're talking 1/10 of a watt. Results may vary. Let me just say that. Results may vary. And a lot of people, they see the videos and they think that this is the end of the conversation. Well, when I get it, it's going to do exactly what it does here. Well, no, there's going to be some slight changes. Let's think about it. The kind of coax that you use. Are you going to use this high dollar 316 mini coax? No, you're going to use something else, most likely. Is the length of the coax exactly the same? No. Is the voltage the same? No. Is your power supply to where you're attaching your amplifier fed with 4/0 gauge cable? No, probably not. You know, there's little variables. So results may vary. And I'm pretty sure that the variance between, let's say, for instance, like Danny's bench and my bench, we're both working with the same roughly electrical wavelengths of coax. So we can see there's a little difference between A and B and C and D. It's just the way it is. And by the way, publicly, let me say, nice job on this, Danny. It's a great box. Works good. Just polished it a little bit more. It's okay. No one got hurt. No emotions got scarred. Keeping it real. Well, gentlemen, I think we're going to ask like $1,100 for this one and probably $1,200 for this one. It's time for them to go find a new home. I am going to clean this up, and we're going to check the fan, and we're going to go from there. Okay, so first thing we're going to do is the, I guess it would be comp box, I guess would be the best way to put it. Alright, fan didn't slow down and quit. Let's do the other one real quick. Okay, now the little tiny box, same basic parts. Same amount of power. Fan didn't slow down and quit. Okay. This one's got a little bit more aggressive of a fan. This has got a little bit less of a fan. Now let's have some fun. This is interesting to me, and I think me alone. Let's put a little bit more drive into these things. So that both of these were 1,000 watts roughly with the striker hitting them, right? And we're talking the derail striker 955. Well, let's go ahead and we'll shut this off. Let's go over here. Let's look at our watt meter. So now we're going to hit this amp with the striker 490, bench 490, which we all know does roughly about 200. At about 200 watts. Let's see if we get more out of it by putting a little more drive into it. Oh yeah, we're getting on up there. So we'll go over to 2X. About 12 and some change. Pretty reliably. So that's not too bad. And that's out of this little guy. So let's go ahead, we'll take everything over and we'll attach to the comp box over here, which I have a feeling is going to do remarkably about the same amount of power. Probably a little bit more, to be honest with you. So we'll call this one over here, we'll call it 1100 watts, 1150. This guy here, that's a solid 12. We'll go back down to 1X so it's reading regular full scale. And the needle hits the right hand 100% or 100, that's 1,000 watts. So we're going to be on the stop peg. Running it to the corner. Well, these are about as thoroughly tested as I can do. And I think this has been a fun little video. And also, this has been more of a thought experiment backed up with let's test it experiment video. But in the same breath, both of these boxes have got to go to new homes. So this one does have a little bit of crackling in the clear, but that doesn't affect the operation of it all. Both of these boxes have been cleared on the inside. So they're going to continue to look like mint little gems on the inside with no corrosion and no nothing on them forever. So I stand by my original estimation and cost. This one's going to be a little bit more because it is more of a comp box. But these are both really good deals, especially with the Toshibas in them. So you guys know all know the drill. First one to call me, first one to text me, first one to shout out. Get switch whenever they want. We're going to call this amp number 1 and amp number 2 for this situation. So if it says on the video amp number 1 sold, 2 for still for sale, whatever, that's how we'll know. That's it. The battle of the 4 pills. Gentlemen, I appreciate you all tuning in. I'm going to go do some other stuff. Big shout out to XS. Big shout out to MechMan. Big shout out to Bird. Big shout out to Coaxial Dynamics. On that note, I'll see you. Click, click.